Friends don't humiliate each other in front of their boyfriends. Friends don't threaten to kick each other out when they're at their lowest. Maya's eyes were getting wet, but I couldn't tell if the tears were real or calculated. She'd always been good at crying on command when she wanted something. "I was trying to motivate you," she said weakly. "Tough love, you know. I thought if I pushed you, you'd find a way to—" "Tough love?" My voice cut through her excuse like a knife. "You called me cheap. You said I smelled like desperation. You laughed at me with him." I pointed at Derek, who had the decency to look uncomfortable now. The apartment door opened, and our elderly neighbor, Mrs. Patterson, stuck her head in. She'd heard everything through the walls. She always did. "Everything all right, dear?" she asked me, ignoring Maya completely. "Actually, Mrs. Patterson, yes. Everything's perfect now." The old woman smiled, her wrinkled face kind. "Good. I heard what she said to you yesterday. Nasty business." My granddaughter went through something similar. She shot Maya a disgusted look. "Some people forget where they came from." Mrs. Patterson left, but her words lingered. Maya's face was now completely red, splotchy with embarrassment and rage. "You know what the worst part is?" I said, walking to the window, looking out at the city I'd struggled to survive in. "I would have helped you if you'd been the one struggling. I would have covered your rent, made you meals, supported you. That's the difference between us." "So what now?" Derek asked, his arrogance finally cracking. "You're just going to throw us out? Power trip much?" "I'm not throwing anyone out," I said, turning to face them both. "Maya's lease doesn't end until next month. I'm not cruel like that. But when it's up, I'll be finding a new roommate. Or maybe I'll just live alone. I've earned that peace." Maya's phone buzzed. Then again, and again. Her face went even paler as she read her screen. "Who is that?" Derek asked. She looked up at me, something like fear in her eyes now. "It's my parents. They're asking why Mrs. Patterson just called them." "Oh, Mrs. Patterson knew Maya's mother from their book club." This was about to get very interesting. Maya's phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Her mother was calling now, the ringtone filling the apartment with its cheerful melody, so at odds with the tension suffocating the room. "Are you going to answer that?" I asked calmly. "This is your fault," Maya hissed at me, declining the call. "Mrs. Patterson is a gossiping old—" Her phone rang again immediately. "Answer it," Derek urged. "Just tell her everything's fine." Maya finally picked up, her voice instantly transforming into something sweet and innocent. "Hi, Mom. Everything's great. Mrs. Patterson must have—" I could hear her mother's voice through the phone, sharp and angry even from where I stood. Maya's face crumbled as she listened. "No, Mom, I didn't say that. I was joking. Mom, please." She pulled the phone away from her ear, and I could hear her mother clearly now. "I raised you better than to kick someone when they're down. Mrs. Patterson said you've been tormenting that poor girl for weeks." Derek tried to take the phone, but Maya jerked away. "I have to go," she said quickly and hung up. Her hands were shaking. "My parents want to meet you," she said to me, her voice hollow. "They're coming over, tonight." "That should be interesting," I replied. "You're enjoying this," she accused. "You're getting revenge." "I'm not doing anything," I said honestly. "I paid my rent. I'm buying the apartment. I haven't told anyone about how you treated me. Mrs. Patterson heard everything through the walls herself. Your mother calling you out isn't my revenge, Maya. It's called consequences." Derek grabbed his phone from the counter. "I'm getting out of here. This is too much drama." "What? You're leaving?" Maya's voice cracked with genuine panic now. "Yeah, I am. This whole situation is weird. Your supposedly broke roommate just bought a $2 million apartment. I don't need this crazy in my life." He started gathering his things from her bedroom. Maya turned to me, tears streaming down her face now. "Real ones, I thought." "Please," she whispered. "Please don't tell my parents what I said. They'll cut me off. They've been threatening to for months because of my spending." And there it was. Maya wasn't living comfortably because she was successful. Her parents were funding her lifestyle. The irony was almost too perfect. Maya, who'd called me a failure, who'd said I needed to move back with my parents, was completely dependent on her own family's money. All that designer clothing, the expensive smoothies, the condescending attitude about contributing, none of it was actually hers. "Does Derek know?" I asked quietly. Her face told me everything. He didn't. Derek emerged from the bedroom, his overnight bag packed. "I'll text you later, maybe," he said dismissively. He stopped at the door, looked at me. "Congrats on the money or whatever." Then he was gone. Maya collapsed onto the couch, sobbing into her hands. For a moment, just a moment, I felt sorry for her. Then I remembered yesterday. The cruelty in her voice. The pleasure she'd taken in my humiliation. "My parents give me $3,000 a month," she said through her tears. "It's not enough for this place and my lifestyle. I've been using credit cards. I'm $60,000 in debt. That's why I needed you to pay on time. That's why I couldn't cover you when you got behind." "You could have just told me that," I said. "Instead of being cruel about it." "I know." She looked up at me, mascara running down her face. "I was jealous. You were trying something brave with your startup. You were taking risks. I'm 26 and I've never done anything real. I just spend my parents' money and work a job I hate to keep up appearances." The confession hung between us. It didn't excuse what she'd done, but it explained it. She'd seen her own failures reflected in mine and lashed out. "When I saw you struggling," she continued, "it scared me, because I'm one bad month away from being in the same position. If my parents cut me off, I'd be worse off than you were. At least you were working 2 jobs. At least you tried something." "Maya, I almost became homeless," I said, my voice hard. "I was eating 1 meal a day. I was having panic attacks in the coffee shop bathroom. You knew all of this and you still chose cruelty over compassion." "I know." "I'm sorry." "I'm so sorry." The apartment buzzer rang. Her parents were here. Earlier than expected. Maya's face went white again. Please just don't tell them what I said. I'll move out early. I'll leave tomorrow. Just please." I walked to the intercom, my finger hovering over the button. This was my moment. I could destroy her with the truth, or show her the mercy she'd never shown me. I pressed the button, letting her parents up. Maya stood frozen by the couch, her whole body trembling. The elevator dinged, and moments later there was a firm knock at the door. Maya's mother, Patricia, was an elegant woman in her 50s, dressed in a cream pantsuit. Her father, Robert, was tall and serious-looking in a business suit. They walked in with the kind of presence that comes from old money and high expectations. "Mom, Dad, I can explain," Maya started. "Sit down, Maya," Patricia said firmly. Then she turned to me, her expression softening. "You must be the roommate. Mrs. Patterson told me what's been happening." I'm mortified. "I'm fine, really," I began. "No, you're not fine," Patricia interrupted. "Or you weren't. Mrs. Patterson said she heard my daughter say terrible things to you. Cruel things. Is that true?" I looked at Maya, who was staring at the floor, tears dripping onto her expensive yoga pants. I could lie. I could minimize it. I could give her the grace she'd never given me. "Yes," I said simply. "It's true." Robert's jaw clenched. "Tell us exactly what she said." "Dad, please," Maya sobbed. "I want to hear it from her," he said, his voice booming in the small space. So I told them. Every word. Every humiliation. The comments about being cheap, about smelling like desperation, about needing to move back with my parents. The timing of it all, when I was at my absolute lowest. Maya's face grew more anguished with each sentence, but I didn't stop. They'd asked for the truth, and after months of swallowing my pain, the truth felt like freedom. When I finished, the silence was deafening. Patricia spoke first, her voice ice cold. "Maya, you're moving out today. Pack your things. You'll be staying with us until you find somewhere else." "Mom, no." "And we're cutting your allowance. Completely. You have a job. Live on that salary. It's time you learned what real struggle looks like." "You can't do this." Maya stood up, panic in her eyes. "I can't afford anything on my salary alone. I'll lose everything." "You should have thought about that before you treated someone fighting for survival like garbage," Robert said coldly. "When you were 24, your mother and I were building our business from nothing. We were exactly where she was. He gestured to me. We gave you everything so you'd never have to suffer like that. And this is what you became. Maya turned to me, desperate. Please tell them I apologized. Tell them I didn't mean it. 3 weeks later, I sat alone in my apartment. Truly mine now, the papers signed and filed, and looked around at the space that had witnessed my lowest point. The couch where I'd cried myself to sleep. The kitchen where Maya had said those words. It all looked different now. Not because I'd redecorated, though I planned to, but because I'd survived it. Maya had moved out that same day, her father helping her pack in cold silence while her mother apologized to me 3 more times. I'd heard through Mrs. I was sitting on our worn-out couch, scrolling through job listings on my cracked phone screen, when Maya walked in with her new boyfriend, Derek. She didn't even look at me. Just tossed her designer bag on the kitchen counter and laughed at something he whispered in her ear. You'll never afford this place on your own, sweetie. Maybe it's time you move back with Mommy and Daddy. The words hit me like ice water. I looked up and she was staring right at me, arms crossed, that smug smile plastered across her perfect face. Derek smirked behind her. We'd been roommates for 8 months. I thought we were friends. I'm just being honest, she continued, examining her manicured nails. This apartment is way out of your league. I'm thinking of getting someone else to take your room. Someone who can actually, contribute. My hands trembled. I was 3 weeks behind on my half of the rent. My startup had failed, my savings were gone, and I'd been working double shifts at a coffee shop just to eat. She knew all of this. I'd cried on her shoulder about it. I'll have the money, I whispered. Sure you will. She rolled her eyes. Derek, babe, let's go to the bedroom. The air out here feels cheap. They walked past me, and I heard them laughing behind the closed door. I sat there alone in that living room, feeling smaller than I'd ever felt in my 24 years of life. My phone buzzed. Unknown number, I answered, hands still shaking. What I heard next would change everything. Miss Hartley? This is James Chen from Chen & Associates legal firm. I've been trying to reach you for 3 weeks. My throat went dry. Another creditor. Another person calling to tell me I owed money I didn't have. I almost hung up. I'm calling regarding your grandmother's estate. Eleanor Hartley. I'm sorry for your loss, though I understand she passed 6 months ago. Grandma Ellie. The only person who'd ever really believed in me. She'd died while I was in the middle of my startup chaos, and I'd barely had time to grieve. I'd missed her funeral because I couldn't afford the flight to Boston. The guilt had been eating me alive ever since. There's been a complication with the will, Mr. Chen continued. Your grandmother left specific instructions that you were to receive nothing until you'd, quote, learned what it meant to struggle. She wanted you to understand the value of perseverance. I laughed bitterly. Well, mission accomplished. Miss Hartley, the waiting period ended yesterday. Your 24th birthday. My birthday. I'd forgotten it was even this week. Maya certainly hadn't remembered, despite me mentioning it last month when things were still civil between us. Your grandmother left you her entire estate. The house in Beacon Hill, her investment portfolio, and liquid assets. He paused. The total comes to approximately $8.3 million. The room started spinning. I heard Maya's laugh from the bedroom again, high-pitched and cruel. Derek's voice saying something about deadweight roommates. Miss Hartley? Are you still there? Yes. I'm here. The funds can be transferred to your account as early as tomorrow morning. I'll need you to come to our office to sign the paperwork. Can you be here at 9? Through the bedroom door, I heard Maya's voice clearly. I'm giving her until Friday to pack her stuff. I'm done carrying her. Mr. Chen, I said, my voice suddenly steady. Make it 8 a.m. I'll be there. I didn't sleep that night. I sat on that couch, staring at the ceiling, listening to Maya and Derek watching movies in her room, their laughter cutting through me like glass. Every cruel word she'd said replayed in my mind on an endless loop. At 7 a.m., I was standing outside Chen & Associates in my only clean blouse and the skirt I'd worn to every job interview for the past 2 months. Mr. Chen was younger than I expected, maybe 40, with kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. "Your grandmother spoke about you often," he said, sliding papers across his mahogany desk. "She was incredibly proud of you. The startup, the risks you took, your courage." "It failed," I said flatly. "She knew it would," he smiled softly. "That's why she structured the will this way. She wanted you to experience failure before you got the money. She said, 'Money doesn't build character. Struggle does.'" 3 hours later, I walked out of that office with temporary access to $100,000, with the full amount available within a week. My hands shook as I stood on the sidewalk, watching the city move around me like nothing had changed. But everything had changed. I took the subway home, still in shock, and found Maya in the kitchen making her overpriced green smoothie. She looked at me with barely concealed disgust. "You're still here. I thought you'd be out looking for a cardboard box to live in." Derek emerged from her bedroom in his underwear, completely comfortable in our shared space. "My space. This the broke roommate?" he asked, not even trying to whisper. "Unfortunately," Maya sighed. "But not for long." I pulled out my phone and opened my banking app. The temporary transfer was there. Real. Undeniable. $100,000 sitting in an account that had held $12 yesterday. "Actually, Maya, about the rent," I started. She cut me off with a harsh laugh. "Save it. I don't want to hear another sob story or excuse. You're out by Friday, end of discussion." "I'm not making an excuse," I said quietly. "I'm paying you. Right now." Her smoothie stopped mid-blend. Maya set down her smoothie, that condescending smile never leaving her face. "Paying me? With what exactly? Your tips from slinging lattes?" Derek snorted, walking over to stand beside her like they were a united front against me. The morning sun streamed through our large windows. The windows she'd claimed gave the apartment its value. The windows she'd used to justify the outrageous rent. "I'm serious," I said, pulling up my banking app. "How much do I owe you?" 3 weeks, right? Plus this month's full amount? $4,200, she said smugly. "But we both know you don't have it, so why are we even—" I turned my phone around, showing her the screen. Her face went white. Actually white. The color drained from her cheeks as her eyes scanned the number over and over, like she couldn't quite process what she was seeing. Derek leaned in, his jaw dropping. "What the hell?" Maya whispered. "Is that real?" Derek asked, his voice an octave higher than before. "It's real," I said calmly. "Wire transfer or check?" "Actually, let me just Venmo you right now." My fingers moved quickly across the screen. Within seconds, her phone buzzed on the counter. She grabbed it, stared at the notification, then looked back at me like I'd just sprouted a second head. "This is... How did you—" She couldn't form complete sentences. "Oh, and Maya." I walked over to the coffee maker, poured myself a cup, took a long sip. "I'm not moving out, but I am buying this apartment. I spoke to the landlord on my way home. He's thrilled to sell. He's been looking for a buyer. You can't be serious. Dead serious. We're signing papers on Monday, which means, technically, in 3 days I'll be your landlord." Derek's face flushed red. "This is insane. You were broke yesterday. You're lying. This is some kind of scam." Maya was still staring at her phone, at the payment confirmation, her hands trembling. The payment was real. The money was there. She couldn't deny it. "Where did you get this money?" she demanded, her voice sharp and accusatory. The question hung in the air between us, heavy with 8 months of accumulated cruelty. I set my coffee cup down slowly, deliberately, letting the silence stretch between us. Maya's face had gone from white to red, her perfectly applied makeup suddenly looking garish in the morning light. "That's really none of your business anymore," I said quietly. "None of my business? You were 3 weeks behind on rent yesterday. You could barely afford groceries. And now you're buying this apartment?" Her voice was rising, getting shrill. "This place costs $1.8 million. The landlord told me himself. 1.6, actually," I corrected. "He gave me a deal. Cash sale, quick closing." Derek stepped forward, his face twisted with suspicion. This is drug money or something. You had to have done something illegal. I laughed. Actually laughed. It felt good. You really can't imagine someone like me coming into money legitimately, can you? You're a barista, Maya shrieked. A failed entrepreneur who serves coffee for a living. Yesterday you were crying about your phone bill. Yesterday I didn't know my grandmother had left me her entire estate, I said simply. The words dropped like a bomb. Maya's mouth opened and closed like a fish. She'd met Grandma Ellie once briefly when she'd video called me. Maya had barely acknowledged her, too busy with her own phone. Your grandmother? Derek said skeptically. Right, and she just happened to be secretly rich? Eleanor Hartley, I said. She made her fortune in real estate in the 70s and 80s. Beacon Hill properties, commercial developments, smart investments. But she lived simply. She wanted me to learn the value of money before I inherited it. Maya was pacing now, her designer slippers slapping against our hardwood floors. Her whole body language had changed from predator to prey in a matter of minutes. This isn't fair, she muttered. Fair? The word tasted bitter in my mouth. You want to talk about fair? I didn't mean those things I said. Maya suddenly switched tactics, her voice going soft, pleading. I was just stressed about work. You know how I get. We're friends, remember? Friends. The word made me want to laugh and cry at the same time. Friends, I repeated, letting the word hang in the air. Patterson, that she'd found a studio in Queens, was taking the subway to work now, learning to cook instead of ordering delivery. Learning, finally, what I'd known all along. My coffee shop had offered me a management position when I'd given my notice, begging me to stay. I'd declined kindly. I was going back to school for my MBA, something Grandma Ellie had always encouraged. I'd also started a foundation in her name, helping young entrepreneurs who'd failed their first ventures. Because failure, as it turned out, was just education in disguise. Derek had texted me once, asking if Maya and I had worked things out, and if I'd be interested in getting coffee sometime. I'd blocked his number without responding. The apartment was quiet now, peaceful. I'd learned something valuable in those months of struggle, something Maya was only beginning to understand. Money doesn't define your worth, but character defines everything. My phone buzzed. A message from Mr. Chen with the final trust distribution documents. $8.3 million. Grandma Ellie's lifetime of hard work and smart choices, now mine to steward. I stood at the window, looking out at the city that had tried to break me, and I smiled. Because Maya had been wrong about everything. I could afford this place. I could afford anything now. But more importantly, I'd learned I could afford something far more valuable. I could afford to be kind even when others weren't. To be strong even when I felt weak. To rise even after being pushed down. You'd be proud, Grandma, I whispered to the skyline. And somewhere I knew she was smiling too. The girl who'd served coffee while building dreams was gone. In her place stood a woman who'd learned that the deepest humiliation could become the foundation for the greatest transformation. And that was worth more than any inheritance could ever buy.